Welcome to lecture number 3, South Africa. And we're going to focus in this particular lecture on the San people, or the Khoisan people of South Africa, the oldest culture on the planet. So this is really fascinating. So let's look at Africa and the geography of Africa. It's the second largest continent we're going to see, and it has a total land area, if you can believe this is just amazing. The total land area of 11,724 square miles, or 30 million square kilometers. It's about 5,000 miles from north to south, and about 4,600 miles from east to west. So it's the second largest continent behind Asia. And by comparison, the USA is only 3.797 million square miles. But the Sahara, which is the largest desert in the world in North Africa, that alone is about 25% of Africa, is 3.5 million. So you can almost put the entire United States in that desert alone. So it's a little bit bigger than 4 times the size of the United States. And this is amazing when you really think about how large Africa is, because when you look on a map, because of the Mercator, the way it's set out and kind of spread out, it doesn't look as big. But if you look at it on a globe, Africa is huge. And so let's look at the climate and geography of Africa. And we're going to find that differences in climate really create differences in music. They also create differences in culture. They create differences in language, and that is largely due to the materials and the environment found in each one of those. So for instance, in the group that we'll look at today, the San people, they live and have lived for thousands of years in the grasslands suitable for pastoral land, in other words, for like farming and hunting. And so you can see that where my cursor is, these kind of green areas, and actually they congregate here in southern Africa and have for millennia. And so Africa is divided into desert in the north and southwest. That's the kind of light brown. Extreme desert, which is the dark brown, some of the hottest places on the planet. Grassland for farming, and savanna. Savanna are long prime pasture land. This is where you see lots of animals that roam in huge herds like zebra and elephants and giraffes and wildebeests. Then the semi-desert area is also kind of in this zone, this light green zone. And then the jungle-like regions are right in the middle, forest land. So we're going to focus on the southern region, which is about 25 to 30% of the continent. And we're going to focus on this region right here in South Africa. And we'll focus, as I said earlier, on the Khoisan, or the San people. Now, San's kind of an insult. It means people who would grab things off the dirt. But it's, of late, been considered kind of an honor to talk about them. They are considered the oldest culture on Earth. That's remarkable. And these people are absolutely worthy of the greatest respect and admiration for their origins and how they keep these traditions alive today. And what a treasure trove of ideas for us in the modern era. So let's start with their language. The San language is characterized by what's known as implosive consonants, or clicks. And it's related to what's known as the Bantu dialects, and it has ancient origins. Now, one of the listening assignments you'll see on Canvas is to listen to someone speaking with the click languages. They're very hard to replicate, but it's very unique to the San people and therefore very ancient. Their art is amazing. The rock art, we can find it by the late Stone Age. Hunters and gatherers can be found in the form of paintings or engravings in almost every district in South Africa. You can see this particular painting on the right, and it is of animals and people and rituals, and there are at least 20,000 or 30,000 sites with over 1 million individual images in South Africa. So there's no comprehensive list of all the sites, and not many of them have been recorded, but this goes back to the Stone Age, and they're still producing art like that. Now, the history of the San people is rather interesting. They're the best model that we have for Stone Age hunter-gatherers. San history is different from how we usually think of history. We think of history in terms of civilizations, and civilizations mean cities. Well, the San had no city. As a matter of fact, it's such a contrast to the way we live today, but an absolutely beautiful and marvelous way of living with the land. They are the models we have today for hunter-gatherers from the Stone Age. And it's tempting to say that the history of the later Stone Age is the history of the San. We can only say that very broadly, kind of in a generalization, but the evidence does point to this. For example, human skeletal remains buried mainly in the last 10,000 years are broadly similar to those of the 19th and 20th century San people, almost identical. And what we call the toolkits, things that they used and sharpened and used to make things and to hunt with, are identical to the artifacts found and dated back to the Stone Age hunter-gatherers. And finally, the uniqueness and diversity of the Click languages suggest very ancient roots that probably date back to the Stone Age. So let's look at their ideas about music. Of prime importance in all San groups is a ritual dance that serves to heal the community. And sometimes it's called a trance dance. They'll dance until they get like a trance. And in that state, they kind of feel this power in their stomachs. And in that state, they believe that they can commune with all of nature and with their ancestors and get advice and feel psychologically connected with all of their ancestors and with each other. And the dance is a communal enterprise, and it transforms the spiritual power and energy into medicine for all those who dance. Medicine simply meaning the act of doing the dance itself and the resultant biochemical responses create healing powers for the group, and they do it as a group. And we're going to see on a couple of the videos when they're dancing, they dance in circles a lot. Ancient peoples tend to do that. And one of the hypotheses behind that is that they also worship the moon and the sun. And so they would dance in a circle because they're looking at the shape of that which they were worshiping. Also, you'll see rattles, and you can see this down. Sometimes there's shells or the little pieces of plant material that are wrapped around the feet and make a rattle sound. Many people believe, many anthropologists believe, that that is to simulate the sound of rain falling. And so when asking for rain, there's this sound of the rain dropping on the desert. Very, very interesting. Then their religion, they generally observe the supremacy of a one powerful God while at the same time recognizing the presence of lesser gods with their wives and children. So like household gods and gods of the hunt and so on and so forth. These are also ancient traditions. But the respect is also paid to the spirits of the dead. So they honor them both in paintings, on wall paintings, and in dance and in song and in storytelling. So among some of the San, it's believed that tilling the soil is contrary to the world order. So farming would not work. And it was established by the god. So it's all hunting and gathering. And there's a strange wisdom to that as well. They don't overuse the land. They really know how to work with the land in which they live. Their social organization is really reserved for those who've lived within the group for a considerable time. So the leaders are those people who have the most experience and who've achieved a respectable age and who've desirable personal qualities like kindness and industry and compassion for others. It's amazing. And the San are largely egalitarian. That means they all work together. Sharing such things as meat and tobacco, and land is usually owned by the whole group. And rights to the land are usually inherited bilaterally. So they're inherited but there's not fencing, and the land is set apart by natural landmarks. And then if someone else wants to come in and hunt on that land, they ask permission. And then the kinship bonds provide the basic framework for political models. It's all about family. So membership in a group, it's kind of determined by residency. As long as a person lives on the land of his group, he maintains that membership. Now, their economy is still hunter-gatherer, and they live as foragers and hunting, and they live in small family groups and move about the land in search of food sources. So wherever the migrations go, or wherever they know it seasonally where there's food source, they move. So there are no cities. So in this kind of society, especially this one, the women are usually responsible for procuring most of the food. So they collect nuts and berries and dig for roots. They also capture small animals, which provide most of the protein for the family. Men usually hunt for the bigger game in smaller groups, but the food they provide is very minimal. So contrary to popular belief, the hunters don't bring home and never have brought home a lot of meat at any one time. It's pretty sporadic, and the women do most of the food preparation and gathering. Now, they've survived for thousands of years in the Kalahari, and the San people have developed a really keen awareness of the surroundings, and they've learned to benefit from seemingly very harsh environments. This picture shows them drinking water from particular root that they can find and dig up and squeeze the water out of. Pretty amazing when you see how well adapted they are. Now, the repertoires of music are this. They have an extensive oral tradition, both in storytelling and in their songs. So many of their tales incorporate stories about the gods that serve to educate listeners about what is considered moral San behavior. So there are morality stories, and sometimes the music helps to tell those stories. And then dance music is very important and highly ritualized. Now, their performance materials include voice and work songs, ritual songs. They use flutes. You can see a picture of those type of flutes, and those are aerophones. They use chordophones, and they use a single string mouth bow. Now, strangely, and this is really interesting, the mouth bow was a hunting instrument originally. So they would hunt small animals with that, but then they can also hold one end in their mouth and pluck the string or bow the string or pound on the string to make really interesting melodies. They have simple drums, the membranophones. Sometimes they are a lot like pans that they have gathered from people leaving those behind. Then we have kalimbas, which I'm going to demonstrate in class, clapping, sticks, rattles or gourds, and so those idiophones. And they have no written music. So the materials of performance are all passed down orally in that oral tradition. So the best part of this particular lecture is when we finish it and you get to do some really intensive listening. So look for your assignment on Canvas. You'll see all the links for all the listening I'd like you to do. Then there is about an hour-and-a-half video I'd like you to watch on human origins that traces life coming out of Africa. And we will be using those concepts when we move northward in Africa and then out to the other continents. Thank you.